Hello and good morning, everyone. It's Cheryl Leong from the Growth Hub Global, and it's virtual coffee on a Wednesday. I have to say, coffee's a little late because I went chasing after a dog.
Runaway dog.
Runaway dog. He went to the shops apparently and didn't bring back any groceries. So that's not so good in the trading department. But we have a special guest today, Michael Wark from B Ninjas, who is a virtual CFO. Michael, Happy New Year. I'm just getting in to the very last point of Happy New Year, so I'm going to do that until the end of the week. How are you doing?
Yeah, really well. Excited to be here, and excited to chat about a few things to help your audience, improve their business.
Absolutely fantastic, and I love that we're addressing this from the very start, because I think, with everyone, it's goal setting, and everyone wants to increase revenue, wants to increase their profitability, wants to be able to take more money home as well. Because our audience, we've got a lot of small business owners, solopreneurs, and finance, as you will probably see very often. It's one of those areas that sort of wavering on the side. And often gets lost. So what we want to be able to do in this session, good morning, Sean. Oh, we've got a few people online joining us, so they'll pop in their little comments. You probably can't see it, but I'll read them out as well. That we want to give business owners some really good tips, at least the top 3 tips as to how we can really take hold of our finances and how to track the right numbers in your business in a simple way that's easy to implement, and isn't going to be overwhelming for the business owner.
Yeah, so, that sounds great. It sounds great. But
excellent.
There's a lot we can cover, but I'd love to prime your audience by just saying it can be a bit flustering. It's like setting a lot of goals in the new year. You have like a huge list and then nothing gets done. So if they can just draw 1 or 2 key things that like tweak something in their mind, take them and just begin by implementing those to start, and hopefully you can snowball from there. So hopefully we don't scare anyone off with too much data, but it's just about picking a couple of things you think will work for you and implementing them straight away.
Absolutely. So let's start off with the first one, and something that I've learnt along the way, and quite a lot of people are familiar with the Barefoot investor, having different buckets and things like that. And we can implement that in our businesses as well. So, can you give us some practical tips as to how we can do that? Because often, business owners, we see money come in, money go out, and you're like, where do I put my tax, and how do I pay myself, and where's this profitability? What's profitability? So how can we do that in a practical sense?
I think they're like the bucket system or the envelope system, as it was used to be back in the day before software came in. It's just a really good way to think about your business, and to apportion different expenses or revenue to certain things that you need to do. When someone first starts out with no knowledge of accounting, they think that everything that comes into their bank account is their money to spend, and then it goes out, and that's terrible for your cash flow. And there's other responsibilities in your life. So obviously the Barefoot Investor talks about it with putting aside funds for, your expenses. You need to put aside funds for your tax. You need to meet those kind of responsibilities. So just apportioning everything that comes in the door to various different buckets is a good way to kind of help you with budgeting and make sure that you don't have everything in that one in that one bank account. So like a really common one for business owners, for example, when they first have to register for GST, so when they start earning over $75,000, is just setting up a GST account. So anything that comes in the door, you're just putting aside 10% of that into a different bank account to make sure that you can meet your business activity statement commitments at quarter end or at month end. So that's like a first one off the rank. You can get used to doing that. And as long as you set up a monthly or fortnightly kind of time to do that, then that's a really easy way to do it.
And so how many, we talk about separate accounts, like how many accounts should we be setting up? And is that should that all be with the same bank, or are we talking about different banks? What are your thoughts?
Most people have it at the same bank for ease of access, and they can log into their their app and check where they're at with the different ones. Yeah. So normally most people will set it up with the same bank account and have them apportioned for the different
Okay.
kind of key areas of their business.
So we've got GST. What are other key sort of accounts that we should be looking to set up?
People normally like to try and keep track of their operating expenses or things that they're core things in their life. So if you're a solopreneur, maybe this is like you don't have a separate business set up yet and you're running all things out of your personal ABN. So that might be all your household expenses. That might be all of those kind of things, your rent. Those things will sit in one bank account and you'll have those apportioned to a certain percentage. So that's probably one key one. But then other things like meeting your end of year income tax payments need to be set aside. So you can think about putting aside funds for that. And then there's the fun things. So you want to be, this isn't all doom and gloom and thinking about the tax man and GST. This is like, what do I want to have fun with, or where do I want to go? And you can have funds set aside, like a profit account, or a like in the Barefoot world they call it a splurge account, where you make sure that you've got funds for the fun stuff as well.
Yeah, okay. So those are the key things. And because, again, the reason why we're looking at doing this is then we can slowly be able to go, all right, whether it's the splurge account, that there's a little bit there, even though it might only be a small percentage of your overall.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that
Absolutely.
we're consistently, and especially for business owners as well, like to be able to put aside some money for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. So another key one we haven't touched on is actually paying yourself as the
Yeah.
business owner. And this is a really, really common problem area for people when they're first starting out or as they're growing,
Yeah.
that the business may not be able to sustain their wage to begin. So they may pay themselves not enough. But then as the business grows, they're still taking a little bit here and there and it's not consistent. And what that does over time is it shows that you've got really lumpy cash flow, and you may have a great month and you take out a lot because you're feeling rich, but then you have a really tough month and you have to go without. So what we normally try and advise is paying yourself a market-based wage, but doing it consistently through the ups and downs, and only taking kind of what you need out of the business to make it a little bit more stable. And then if you're using like accounting software like Xero, when you run your profit and loss, things are a little bit more stable, and you can see that there's only a certain amount going out for wage, and then you can see what the business is actually doing outside of that. So just thinking about how much you need and taking a consistent amount is a really, really important next step for business owners.
And are there set sort of percentages or portions that, how do you work that out? If you've got 100% of funds that come in,
Yeah.
are there set rules around, I know with Barefoot Investor, they said, you've put in some amount into your splurge and all of that. So for business owners, what are good sort of frameworks around that?
I think it really depends on the level and the size of the business, and also the business model. So how profitable the model is, and what you're charging and things like that. So at the start, it will be a larger percentage. When you're just growing, a lot of it will be allocated to paying yourself. So that might be upwards of 50%, might be 50% or more. So if you're a service business, something really handy to think about is the rule of thirds. And it's a tried and tested metric, which means that of like $100 that comes in the door, so you have a service, 33.3% should be to pay for your labor costs. So at the start, that'll probably be you. The other third will be to pay for overhead, so your internet, your rent, laptop, things like that. And then the final third is your profit or your margin, to make sure that you're actually profitable. And that profit is really important to maintain, because it's going to be used to help fund your growth, and it's going to be used to help in those months where maybe it's a little bit quieter. That helps fund your future business expenses. So I think a rule of thirds is a really good way for people to think
That's
about
a
it.
good one. I haven't heard of that, but so that's a good one to take away as well. So I guess in a way that also helps with people pricing up their.
Absolutely. You go, what's my cost price as an hourly rate? Times that by 3, and that's probably what your charge out should be. So for like, I work with a fair few digital agencies, and so depending on what the level of the staff member might be, there might be charging them out at 120 an hour, 150 an hour is fairly common as well in terms of making sure they've got enough margin there. Um,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
so so
Yeah,
that's a
that's a
really
real
important one.
that's a good one. And you mentioned really briefly using accounting software. I mean, I would have assumed that most businesses would be using some level of accounting software, and if they're not, like, there are obviously huge benefits to be doing so.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So say something like Xero, and being able to have these then little different buckets or accounts using as accounting software like Xero allows for you to allocate those a lot quicker. Can you actually use Xero to do the allocations, or is that still a manual thing?
So like the buckets technique that's outlined in something like Barefoot, that's more a cash flow management strategy, and that's done from your bank accounts. So you'll probably use a spreadsheet. I can share with them like a Barefoot spreadsheet that
Yeah, that would be
helps
great.
you
Yeah,
flow through that money.
yeah.
But that's more done as a bank account allocation. What Xero is the next step up when you're actually trying to analyze the business in a traditional sense, which means
Mm,
you're running a profit and loss, you're running a balance sheet, and you're looking at your performance of your business over time. So using your bank accounts is great for your day-to-day cash flow. Like, do I have enough to pay myself this month is a really important thing to know.
mm,
But using Xero, it gives you that historical ability to look back over time and say, how am I trending? How did I go last month compared to this time last year?
mm,
Um, and so what's really powerful and what I do with my virtual CFO clients is we look back 12 months and have a look at what the trend lines are doing for certain expenses,
yeah.
certain profitability metrics in their business. And that gives us a lot more information to help make changes in the business. So it's kind of that next level up of understanding truly what the business is doing, and then
Mm.
helping them being able to make changes to improve the business. So it's, yeah, they're two very useful strategies, but they're slightly different.
Different
You know what
as
I mean?
well. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So the point there you mentioned as well, looking back 12 months, and how often should we be doing this? You know, as people who have the benefit of a virtual CFO, and I think, you know, when you get to a point where you've got that capacity, it's really good because it's the financial management of your business. But for those who don't have someone in place, like, how often should they be going, all right, need to check, is it a quarter, you know, half yearly, 12 month, is 12 months too long?
12 months is way too long,
Yeah.
definitely. Monthly, I would say, is a great starting point for most people.
Mm,
If you're going through a really tight cash flow period, people will be checking fortnightly or weekly. But if you're just beginning and trying to build this habit, I would say whatever system you're using, or whatever, if you're using a spreadsheet or Xero, just try and book in some time after the end of the month to do your reconciliations and have a look at how you're going and reflect on that result compared to previous periods over the
mm,
past 12 months. The reason I say 12 months is it gives you a longer period of time to see how things have been moving in your business. If you're literally only looking back 1 month, it's very reactionary, because it might just have been an off month where a supplier didn't pay and there was a bit of an anomaly and you might panic. But if you
mhm.
look at a longer time period, it tells a more accurate picture of how things are going.
Yeah, yeah, okay, that's cool. So, book in a time every month at least to be able to go through your numbers. So,
Yeah,
what are the key metrics that we need to be looking at? Again, without getting too overwhelming,
yeah, yeah.
what are the key things that we should be able to go, all right, I'm going to book out this time every month and I'm going to have a look and see how we've been tracking?
Yeah. So I think obviously naturally most entrepreneurs will be looking at top line revenue and,
Mm,
and how am I going? How are my sales? And that's generally what they will look at. I would
yeah.
I would advise them to look at net profit as well. So that's how much cash is left in your business after you've delivered
Mm,
the service.
mm,
And that's a more accurate indicator of actually how the business is performing. Because if you're selling a lot of sales, but you're selling them at the wrong price, you could potentially be going backwards. So net profit as a percentage is a really important one for most people. 5% is a good like base break even point, but 10% is a healthier number. 15% is really good.
mm.
Um, so net profit would be a really good one. Um, and also just maybe diving into how each project or how each service line or how each product is profitable. So
Yeah.
you want to understand how each part of the business is contributing to your overall result. So you might have a service or a product that's actually the most profitable. that is driving all of your results, and you've got a couple of others that are actually costing you money. So you want to be kind of looking at it, that next layer in, just to make sure that you may want to cut that service or that product and focus on really what's driving the results in your business, to double down on that, ask the customers why they love that so much, and that will help you grow a business more profitably. So yeah, making sure that you're looking at in a little bit more nuance is really important.
I think that's something that, I guess, again, a lot of the small business owners who are diving in and wanting to serve everyone, that we do so often, that we sort of go, we spread ourselves too thin. We got to go, I've got to do this and this and this, and there's 10 different services. But yeah, being able to assess and go, is this actually, are these top three, are there top two services that we should just be focusing on, because that's the most profitability there.
Yep.
And then be able to shelve the others to make way for and so, I mean, that profitability side of things, admittedly for me, it's been one of those areas where it's taken me a while to really understand how to. We talked really briefly about pricing more services, because we have a lot of service business, not so much product business, services, and people going, all right, well, how do I price myself? And then you mentioned also overheads, and then the profitability. So how do you, as a virtual CFO, assist businesses in assessing, all right, to say, all right, this is how much you're charging now, but actually you're undercharging?
Yeah. It's a very, very common problem that I deal with. I literally had a call with a client yesterday about this, and they're not charging out their staff at the right rate. So they're essentially paying their staff too much for how much they're charging them out. So they're kind of going backwards a little bit because of that.
Yeah.
So there's a few different strategies. There's one called cost plus, which you work out how much does this cost for me to deliver the service, or so what am I paying my staff? What are the overheads involved in delivering this service? Like everything that's involved in getting this to the customer. And then you add a margin on top of that to make sure that you're profitable. So you'll add 15% to make sure that you've got that profit margin in there. That's a pretty old school way of looking at it. A lot of people are moving towards value-based pricing.
Yes.
Which is what is the value of this to my customer? How do they perceive it? And how can I up the value that I'm delivering and up the price that I'm charging to my customer? And so that's moving away from looking at what your costs are and adding a little bit of a margin, to how can I deliver the maximum value and charge a premium price as a result. And that's probably a better way to think about it, because it takes you away from just squirreling on cost and thinking about actually how can I over deliver, and as a result become more profitable.
Yeah. And how do you feel for business? I mean, you often might see this where people are going, oh, I know I'm bringing a lot of value, but still underpricing. And how do you do you find that you've got to work with their mindset to be able to push that boundary?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with existing customers. So if they've had a customer for a while and they're trying to have this conversation, it can be really awkward. So a lot of times we need to pull back out and re-talk about the strategy and the entire package that they're delivering and how they're delivering it, and reconfigure everything so that the customer feels like they're getting a lot more value as a result. So it's not about just hiking up your prices 10% to everyone tomorrow. It's about looking at it holistically and making sure that you actually are delivering on that. So it can be it's a very sensitive discussion, and you need to make sure that what they are getting more value. It's not something you can just email everyone this afternoon and say, hey, your prices are going up 10%. So it is a sensitive topic, but you can increase your prices and still afford to have a couple of customers who may leave, because what I found is sometimes the customers who are causing the most problems are also the most unprofitable. So they're the ones who complain a lot more and take up a lot more time. So to use the example of the client I mentioned talking yesterday, they've got a couple of problem customers and there's so much time being spent trying to keep them happy. But if those staff members were freed up to work on winning new, more profitable customers, the business would be so much better for it. The team don't like working with them. They're actually losing money slowly because they're spending too much time on this customer. So maybe a price increase in that area to reflect how much time they're spending would mean the customer might leave, but that also frees up the team to work on more profitable ones and double down on those, the ones that we like working with, the people who value us and that we're actually earning a decent profit with.
Yeah, I think that's a really critical point there. Again, like we said, a lot of us tend to try to please everyone,
Yeah,
but it
yeah,
just takes up so much time.
yeah,
And so, maybe having referral partners or whichever who are probably more specialists in specific areas, whereas you just keep continuing to service first the customers that you work well with, and then secondly what you're good at and
yeah,
continue to be good at. Excellent.
absolutely. Yeah, more volume isn't necessarily the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Michael, tell us a little bit about what a virtual CFO does, and how you help your clients and your customers.
Yeah, so normally I work with people who have taken that step probably from solopreneur into like a business, and they're most likely normally using Xero, and
Mm,
so we can get a little bit more of nuanced data from their system. So the first thing is just making sure that the things in Xero are correct, that
mm,
they're doing their bookkeeping, that all the numbers that are in there are correct, that there's no personal transactions being diluting the figures, things like that. And what we do is normally on a fortnightly or monthly basis, we'll have a call and we talk through, okay, what are these numbers telling us? We set up some specific metrics for their business that we think we need to be tracking. So I try and
mm,
take away the complexity of numbers and just say, hey, let's just look at 4 or 5 numbers that are the things that we really need to look at. Or we can just look at 3 key things, and then we'll be looking at them over a period of time. So for the past 12 months, and say, how has this been trending? Is it going up? Is it going down? What's it telling us about the business? And then the really interesting conversations are, okay, how do we pull these levers and adjust this to improve the business performance? And so that's the kind of stuff that I love doing, is looking at, okay, what the business is doing, how can we drive profitability, or how can we grow? So common problems that I will help solve is like, when can we hire someone?
mm.
Um, what's our pricing structure and mix? How do we improve that profitability? It's kind of helping with that business performance side that I really enjoy. And for a lot of people, it's just the accountability, having to show up for the call each month or each fortnight means that they're keeping on top of something that normally they would probably ignore.
Yeah.
But it's a really, really important part of growing a business. And so having someone by their side to help answer those questions, make sure that the numbers are correct, making sure that, all the compliance is they're keeping on top of, and there's not an ugly tax debt at year end.
Mm.
It gives people a lot of peace of mind and also support when they're trying to grow their business as an owner.
Yeah, and that accountability part has been coming up even for me quite a bit, and I see how much we really need that in business, particularly in the
Mm,
early part. Not, I don't even say even the early part, just really throughout the whole course of business, because we try to achieve so much and we get distracted by so many things.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but
absolutely. The shiny ball syndrome, I suffer
yeah,
from it as well. There's
yeah,
so many things you
yeah.
could be doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And but then if you've got someone there that's saying, "Hey, we're going to catch up. We're going to have to do this," you go, "I need to do my homework," and just that sense of I've got to be. Someone's keeping me accountable, and I don't want to let someone down.
Mm.
Can make a big difference and a big sort of shift in business owners in the way that they operate.
Absolutely. And just trying to bring some simplicity to it, of just pare it back to 3 or 4 or 5 key things we look at.
Mm, mm,
And those are the touch points we just keep on top of and
yeah,
make sure that it's correct. And I'll still be looking at the other bigger data and all those numbers, but it's just trying to bring simplicity to something that people have a mental block around, because it's quite complex. And if you haven't studied accounting,
mm,
looking at a balance sheet and a profit and loss, it's like makes your brain spin. So it's about trying to help translate that into usable
yeah,
information that people can make decisions with to help their
yeah.
business and help
And
grow it.
also asking the sometimes hard questions of a
Yeah,
business owner, right?
yeah, yeah,
And really, um, with anything, looking from the outside in,
yeah.
and being able to, in an encouraging way, question, do we need to make this expense? Do we need to be doing this, or can we change?
Mm,
Can we be tweaking that? So I see a huge, huge, huge benefit there, Michael. I've been so thankful for you to be able to share. I know it's been short and sweet, but there's some
yeah,
real good golden nuggets there.
yeah.
You mentioned being able to share the spreadsheet. How can people get hold of that little
Yeah,
template?
absolutely. I'll post it in the Facebook event
Okay, great.
page, the
Yes,
link to the Barefoot Investor template. So this
awesome.
is just based on Barefoot Investor's book, and it's the recommended percentages for your personal finance stuff.
Yeah.
If people want a more nuanced one for their own business situation, I'm more than happy to do that on a one-to-one basis. They can just drop me a line. I'm on LinkedIn, Michael Wark, WARK. Otherwise, my email is michael@bninjas.com, and they can drop me a line there, and we can work out maybe having a quick session. I'm more than happy just to have a quick 15-minute free consult for people to see what their situation is and try and suggest some help. And then
Yeah.
if maybe they want some more ongoing support, we can discuss that as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Michael. Really appreciate it. Well, best of luck to you for the rest of 2021. And again, anyone that's sort of drowning in your numbers and accounts and really want to take things to the next level, reach out to Michael, see how we can possibly get you back on track as well.
Great. Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks for
Excellent.
having me.
Thanks so
Appreciate it.
much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.